Welcome, you all. I am Baron Baptiste. Welcome to Disrupt the Drift, a place where we can tell the truth and the truth can be told. David Masters, welcome.
Thank you, brother. Good to be here.
Yes, sir. I wanted to talk today about destiny. I've always held destiny, this word destiny, as fate, like a fixed fate in life, like you have no say in the matter of your life. Like you're born with a blueprint, it goes one way, and you end up in one destination, and that's it. But I thought we'd explore it. It's a word I've been contemplating, thinking about, and I thought, people who are listening, those of you who feel like or think that you're struggling with the ability to change and like really change and like change forever and redirect your life in a new direction and create or allow for a new blueprint, a new way, a new path. You'll want to hear what we have to say about this today. David, you pulled up the word destiny in the dictionary, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
You want to, let's start with that. I'm super curious.
The first definition is the inevitable or necessary fate to which a particular person or thing is destined, one's lot. Very interesting, and the word fate is now intermingled in there. And I've always thought of fate as being a negative connotation. Here's number two, a predetermined, and here's another interesting concept, predetermination. Some people don't believe in it. I do, but as you just said, you have two different blueprints that you can work your life from. One is a definite blueprint for failure. The other one is a definite blueprint for success. Depends on which one you choose to follow. But it says a predetermined course of events considered as something beyond human power or control. Now, there's a mystical quality that's introduced into this. If you don't have any control, then what's the point of trying? I think we all have control if we choose to accept that responsibility. And then the third one is the power or agency thought to predetermine events. Yeah, I think here's a perfect example.
Predetermined. That's the part where I get tripped up. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let's say you're in your car and you're driving in a mountainous area and you're going around these sort of hairpin curves and you can't really see that far ahead. And then you're going along and suddenly a boulder rolls down right in front of your car. So in a way, there is a predetermined situation that you have to react to in a proper way. Now, some people will be startled and then they will react in a wrong way and then not deal with the situation. So they may wait too long to slam on the brake or may not take the evasive action necessary. And so there's a predetermined outcome. And have you ever felt that way when something happens to you and you look back at the situation and go, oh my gosh, I wish I would have listened to myself?
Yeah. Yeah, the part that trips me up there is the predetermined. So yeah, let's say you're riding down that highway, a rock falls down. Is that predetermined, or is that just, what would you say, just being in the wrong place at the wrong time? Like the rock was just going to fall, whether you were there driving your car by or not. And then if you are in a predetermined state of being, I relate to that. If you are already an upset drama person and you're just, the next thing that comes your way is you squeeze an orange, you get orange juice, you get squeezed, and what comes out is just reactivity and drama, and you don't see clearly. Now that to me maybe is predetermined, the reaction, like that's predictable with different human beings. You could look at a Navy SEAL in a situation like that, or you could look at some person in life who goes through life reactive and angry and they're an upset waiting to happen. Those two individuals likely are going to respond very differently to that same situation. But yeah, there's two things there, right? Is the rock falling, is that predetermined, or is that just life doing its thing and you happen to be there in that moment? And then your response to that situation is predetermined, as I see it, in a way Now, exactly what you do or how you react in the moment is determined by the moment, but who you are, who you're being, and what you do in situations as life throws situations at you. Now that you have some say in the matter. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. But do you see the rock falling as predetermined?
Yes. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah. Yeah.
With a pinball machine, I remember hearing this interesting theory about pinball, which means that once the ball is launched, there are only certain directions that ball is going to go. And then depending upon how you use the flippers, you're just going to simply redirect that ball. But everything that you do at that point has a determination that is already somehow factored in. Okay, so another example now is, I don't know, you probably remember not so long ago, the Baltimore Bridge collapsed. Do you remember this? This is a recent story.
Yeah.
So there, in looking back at the ship that ran into the bridge, it was having engine problems. In other words, it had docked for a couple of days because of engine problems, and then the engine shut it down as it was moving toward the bridge, and it ran into the bridge. Predetermined, because see, there were already all the signs that were there. So and now the other question is, what about the people that were on the bridge who fell into the river?
Yeah.
See, so
is it predetermined? Yeah, for those people,
it could have been, but it may not have been. See, the whole idea of predetermination has to do with whether or not we are in touch with our own intuition. And I wrote a book about it called Pay Attention to Your Intuition. There are times in my life where I could have gone, and I always thought about this, Baron. Why did I get hung up in traffic on this particular day? Why did I decide to turn left instead of turning my typical right? What were the processes at work in my mind that caused me to take a different route home or get hung up somewhere and be 5 minutes late?
Yeah.
Or another one, which I describe, is one day I'm going to take a drive in my sports car. I'm going to go around the lake. I'm going to go to Santa Barbara, have dinner. And all of a sudden, I had a vision of an accident, a terrible car accident. And I pulled my car over to the side of the road and I questioned, do I want to find out? Now, see, there are things that are going to happen. And this is when we talk about predetermination. Is the earth going to continue spinning? Is the sun's going to rise, right? We're talking about things that are, there are a lot of things that are predetermined, but there are choices about how you meet those predetermined moments. And those choices have to do with following your intuition. And your intuition connects you to a higher dimension.
Yeah.
Your brain is simply a receiver.
How about like serial killers who are predators, who in the middle of the night, they sneak into your house, and there was a woman, is Elizabeth Smart here in Utah.
Yeah.
She was, some guy came in, some homeless guy in the middle of the night, snuck in and snatched her right out of, she was asleep, snatched her right out of her bed, and then stole her away. And I forget, but she was with that guy, that homeless guy, and his wife. They were camping out up in the mountains just behind her home where she grew up and lived with her family for several years. Yeah. And how about that kind of thing where someone, now there's another part to that story I'm just remembering, but I'd like to hear your response first. Yeah.
The first thing that comes to my mind is, who are you dealing with in this life? In other words, you may come in contact with people, they may be a sociopath, a psychopath, or a saint. Now, the question is, what does your, and I'll just use this loosely, your spidey sense, what is your sense of this person? Now, a lot of people go into dealing with other people blindly. And apparently this guy was a guy that was doing some maintenance on their home.
Yeah, so there you go. That was the other side to the story that I was going to mention. The father had hired just different homeless people to come in as workers and do maintenance work inside the house. Yeah. And apparently that's where this guy, the homeless guy who stole the girl, he scanned the place. He's a predator. And so that father brought that element of people into his own home, which you could say, okay, that kind of is the perfect setup
Right.
for something that could happen, that could be called predetermined.
Yes.
Dark,
wait,
evil,
because
negative
see, it's not that
outcome.
mysterious.
Yeah.
It really isn't.
Yeah.
So you see these people who are into building these huge Lego things that they start with one domino. It's the domino effect. The dominoes, they set them up. They're very elaborate. They're huge. They cover 1,000 square feet or whatever. And then one domino starts this effect and they all fall down. In other words, there's a physics to it. There's and a metaphysics to it. And so the inevitability of a thing or an outcome can be determined by one domino. One. And so it depends upon how you as an individual step back and observe the world that you live in. It's not a phenomenal world. There are predictable things everywhere. It's like a stoplight. I've had a couple people in my family get hit. My son was hit twice. But where was his head? He was in an intersection and some older woman came speeding, trying to make a red light, smashed right into him. And then he was in a parking lot and some guy just backed right into him. Where was my son's head? Now, see, I can't blame my son. He's 19 years old. But I always look 2 to 3 times. In other words, I am a preemptive person when it comes to destiny. I want to see whether or not I can prevent them, because prevention is always better than cure. And if you have that part of you actively at work.
Oh, so like he pulled out into the intersection. It
was a natural thing. The light turned green. This woman decided, an older woman decided to run the light.
Yeah.
But if it were me sitting there, I would have looked both ways 3 times and I would have seen that person coming, and I would have preempted the destiny. I would have.
Yeah. I know. I get it. Yeah. Those moments where if I'm not present, I'm checked out, I'm behind the wheel. I'm like, wait, get present. Because those are the moments where, when you're checked out, that bad things can happen and you're not following the inner promptings, those inner gut level intuitive promptings. You when you're checked out, you lose connection to the light, the inner light,
right?
That is protective. It's a protective light. Yeah. But wait, so there's also, though, I used to watch a lot of crime TV. I don't so much anymore, once in a while, but not so much. But I used to watch a lot of crime TV, and there were real crime, right. Not the kind of
True
fictional
crime
stuff.
Yeah.
But and there are a lot of situations where I'd see, okay, a serial killer would just be cruising on the freeway, would pull off the freeway randomly, some neighborhood, cruising, right? Predatory, just looking for opportunity, and then choose a house and go in that house and do terrible things. Right. Or similar, but a little different. Little kids are playing out in some predators cruising on the freeway, pulls off in their neighborhood, starts cruising the streets in a predatory way, looking for victims. And then there's some little kids playing right there, or a little kid riding her or his bicycle. And then that predator jumps out of the van and pulls the kid in and takes off.
Yeah.
So what about those kind of situations?
Again, see, there are, how can I say this? So destiny, if you buy into the idea that you have no control, then destiny is more likely to occur. Yeah. Which means you've just abandoned the potential to avert this or that. Right? Yeah. You just go, okay. And I know a lot of people who go, it is what it is, whatever will be. There are a lot of people who don't lock their door at night. Yeah. And there are predators everywhere, right? It's just there's an instinct in these people that is driven by dark forces. But
they have their own dark intuition,
right?
Yeah, that picks up on opportunity or vulnerability.
Yeah, and prevention is better than cure, which means you don't walk around paranoid and thinking that there's somebody after you, but the potential is there.
Yeah, you're walking awake. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know
it's like person, that. Is it biblical? It's don't put God to foolish tests.
That's one of them, for sure.
Maybe it's a little different, but it fits into this context. Yeah.
Yeah. My wife has a friend many years ago, and a man pulls up into his driveway and parks his car, and there's a little girl playing behind the truck, and he gets in without thinking, without looking, and runs over the little girl and kills her.
Mm.
Preventable. Destiny doesn't have to be a master. It doesn't have to be an overlord. Destiny is only a potential.
Mm.
Now, the question is, what are you doing in that moment? Where is your head? You're late for work. You want to get to the golf course, whatever it may be. And all of a sudden you find out that you just killed your own daughter.
Mm.
See now, and so there's got to be
And
a higher faculty at work.
The daughter? How about for
The daughter is a victim of destiny.
in those situations?
She's a victim of cause and effect. And the reason,
but is that random?
I don't think it's random at all. You see, again, because it's going to go one way or another.
It's life. Things happen that should not happen, like terrible things.
Yeah.
And then, especially when people die young, it's why I hate war, right? Sending all these young men and women into war, and it's disturbing. And yet, sometimes a question I have is that young person, and then people will talk about how that person's life was robbed from them and their potential to live a full life, all that. And maybe that's true. But then the other side of it is, who knows what the afterlife is like? Maybe our time on earth is limited to a length of a certain river. It reminds me of, there's something in I don't know if it's Buddhism or yoga or something. I remember years ago just hearing that life at birth, we're all given a river, and we have a certain length of river, and we don't know our time. But destiny is, the word destiny, to me, what comes to mind is destination, right? We don't know the length of our life from birth to death, if death is the ultimate destination, and then life is everything that happens in between birth and death. But we don't know how long we have, any of us. We don't know how long our river is. And even when young people, terrible things happen. It shouldn't happen, and yet it does. But is there some bigger fate at work? And I think what I'm getting from what you're saying, it's also young kids born into households that the parents are doing drugs, or they're drinking, or they're checked out, or like that man the dad getting behind the wheel of his car, totally checked out, and he runs over his daughter and kills her.
Yeah.
It's like there's a certain context and a vibration of evil or dark forces that come up, and it's like terrible things happen. And then people like that, the default is they just immediately go to, oh, all these terrible things are happening to me in my life, as if they have no responsibility in it. But if you look back at how you've been living, maybe the destination and the life you're living is taking you to a destination that ultimately is not what you want in life.
Well, I will say this, that death is a destiny. You can't escape.
It's a destination. It's the only real thing in life. The only real, dependable, predictable thing in life. It's like the ultimate reality is death.
And so with regard to the end of one thing and the beginning of another, that's where the great mystery is. Now, the question is, what do you do in between the time you come into this world and the time you leave it? And I do believe that I think I was telling you, I saw this amazing documentary on Gene Wilder, the comedian, the actor, Willy Wonka.
Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory guy.
He was a truly brilliant person in so many ways.
Yeah.
So,
brilliant, creative. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was always said about him and what made him different is that he had a true innocence about him.
He had a childlike quality.
He really did. And
he did.
But so much of his life was a sort of progression of destiny. It's like he would meet somebody. He met Mel Brooks, and then he ended up being brought into a movie where several times where people dropped out and because of problems, and he was the person who ended up as the main character. And sadly, in the end of his life, he ended up with Alzheimer's. Not sure why he did. Terrible dementia. But the idea is what he did with his life was that he was brilliant. as much of his life, and he was actually an amazing artist as well, which I never knew until I saw the documentary. So he was always filling his life with creativity.
Yeah.
And so
he had purpose
and purpose, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
trying to find different ways of making people laugh, because to him, comedy and laughter was something that was really godly. He was born Joel Silverstein or something like that. And he changed his name to Gene Wilder. He didn't want to be a Silverstein. He came from a Jewish family. But, there are certain people who are born into this world to make a difference. And the question is, are you one? And the other question is, have you chosen to be? Or have you chosen to be a person who makes the world different in some way, better in some way? Or have you by default chosen to be a part of a huge problem? And like you were talking about serial killers, it's a dark question. Hitler was a serial killer. Hitler came into a world where there was a destiny for Hitler and for Mao and for all of these people. They
followed the dark blueprint.
The dark blueprint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's what comes to mind right here is that one thing in life, one choice or one decision can change your destination for better or worse, for evil or for good.
Yes.
And moment to moment, we have that opportunity. And it's the name of the show here is Disrupt the Drift. But let's talk about drift for a moment. If we're on the river of our life and we're just drifting along, and it's almost predictable, it's like the way life is going. If you look, you're drifting along in life, unconscious, checked out. There's a predictable destination. Things, but then the other side of it is when you aim high in life, and at any moment you can drop your pride. You can drop your pride. You can start telling the truth on yourself. You can drop pride, like a repentance, and then you take on new actions. Faith without works is dead, but you have faith. You're aiming high. You have a faith that things will work out. It's like when you're talking about Gene Wilder, where doors were opening for him, opportunities. Yeah. But it wasn't like something he was doing that maybe it had to do it with what he was doing, but it was also the flow he was on. Like the river he was on was allowing for opportunities to open up.
Right.
And in what would seem like random ways, synchronicity. But when you're living a life that's true, but here's my point. You can change. We're malleable as human beings. And it's what Jesus taught, right? Repent, lay down your old life, pick up a new life.
Yeah.
But when you pick up a lot of Christians, I was talking to this guy I was on a flight the other day, and I was talking to this guy next to me, and he was a Christian. He was saying, I don't believe in growth. You don't need to grow or improve yourself as a person because the blood of Christ, Jesus saved us. And he said, so I can live. I'm like, so you don't have to look at yourself to grow or improve, become a better human being. No, Jesus already did that for me. And I'm like, that's absurd because it takes more than that. Yeah. You need to confront your own ego and the drift you're on, because you can say the words, oh yeah, okay, my new way is this way. Yeah. How I'm going to be now is like this. But you're still in the old drift. You're still drifting in the same. Now and people are always New Year's resolutions, or they're recommitting to new habits or new actions in life. But it doesn't last because they're still on the same old drift. They're on the same river.
Yeah.
So you need to lay down your old life, and then you need to do something with the drift you're on. And disrupting the drift it's a starting point, but I think it's bigger than that. You need to put a dam up, like a dam, to stop the flow of that old river.
Yeah.
You need to put a dam up. You need to let go of old friends, really, or fiends, or people, the vampire people that suck your life force. Mm-hmm. You need to put up a dam and redirect the flow or at the source of the river. At the source, you also see, what do they do with a river when they can change the direction, but at more upstream, at the source of the river, to change the direction, you need to be not on that old drift, just changing your actions or saying, I give up my pride, or because you're still in the same drift, the same destiny, heading toward the same destination. Yeah, maybe improving yourself along the way. But I think what we're talking about is something bigger than that, which is really like laying down pride, laying down an old life, starting a new way. You put up the dam, you let go of just old ways of being, old friends, old people that suck on you, your energy. You create a new direction at the source of the river, which alters the whole destination, like where you're ending up. And you aim high and you discover purpose in life. It's not enough to you got to redirect the whole river at the source, so to speak.
Something that Gene Wilder said in this documentary, and I have to paraphrase it because I don't remember exactly how he said it, but it's something that I have often thought. And he said, as he was becoming more and more successful, he often wondered whether or not he was good enough for God. In other words, and I thought that was very profound and very humble, because he didn't think of himself as being somebody all that talented. He was just being himself. But he wondered if he was measuring up to whatever God would have wanted for him. And I often think this myself, is like, the moral conundrum is, did I do everything I could have done? Was I the best person that I could be? Were the things that I might have done differently? This is always going through my mind. It never stops.
Yeah, it's like Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living.
That's it.
But like
that's
really,
it. Yeah,
like moment to moment.
Exactly.
In your everyday actions, in your everyday routines, you're always in a questioning of yourself.
In that questioning, you're open to redirection.
Yeah.
And with Elizabeth
and
Smart,
higher guidance.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Elizabeth Smart, the father might have thought, I don't know, this guy's kind of shady. You know what I'm saying?
I'm letting him in my house. Yeah.
Right? And then giving him free access, because, see, that's a virtue signal. Look, I trust you. That's a virtue signal. There's all kinds of strange virtue signals that people can put off to demonstrate that they're being the best person that they can be, and not necessarily. See, so destiny is predictable. There's a lot of things in life that are predictable, and there are a lot of things that are preventable. See, depending upon whether or not you stop and you check yourself out and you examine yourself first, forget about what other people are doing. It really doesn't matter, honestly. Yeah, people are doing
it's what you're doing.
It's what you're doing that matters.
And who you're being.
And what you're not doing, the flip side of that.
And what you're not doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And who you're not being.
Right.
Yeah. And searching your heart for, because something that'll keep people on that old drift is resentment. The people you resent in life.
Well,
or blame, fault. It's like somehow, because that puts all the power out with others, and you're giving away your own power and freedom and natural expression in life. Yeah.
Shakespeare talked about the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.
Yeah.
If you think about it, you're going to get pierced. You're going to get
hung up. Oh yeah. It comes with life.
Right.
Suffering and challenges and it's part of life. That's not going anywhere.
When you don't deal with it properly, when you start to blame, and again, I wanted to say earlier, this is not a guilt trip thing that we're talking about. We're actually talking about an ownership issue. Take some ownership of what happened. Don't blame yourself. Forgive everybody. Stop blaming everybody. They are what they are. It's their problem. They have their own destiny. You've got your destiny, despite whether or not you live with somebody who is going down the wrong path or whatever. But the slings and arrows are there, and you're going to get pierced. And so the best thing you can do is just let go and let God, because God understands how to make all these things work together.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. So. And when you do that, in my experience, things just shed off of you.
Yeah.
Starts trimming the fat, and the not you identities start dying off. But you make a good point with it's not a guilt trip here. It's about being responsible, the ability to respond in life, and beginning with yourself. Because when you're operating out of blame and fault, That energy's got to go somewhere. So
Yeah.
if slings and arrows are coming your way, and then you go into blaming and faulting others, what happens is at a certain point, those others go away. And that blame and fault turns back in on you. So now I'm at fault, I'm to blame. When you're operating in that system, in that drift, you keep getting more of the same. That energy, whatever you want to call it, is either aimed toward others or it's aimed toward yourself. And then you end up laying all these guilt trips and shame spirals on yourself. And you want to step out of that world and off that drift, that river, just drifting along. And another place, an important place to look, in my experience, is forgiveness. And just start giving. Life is about letting go. Life is about giving things up. Yeah,
Jesus
not holding on. And to the degree we hold on, we suffer. Right.
That is the truth. And
it's resenting others and waiting for them to die while we're dying, but we're drinking the poison.
To kill somebody else. Yeah. Jesus said, "Know the truth, and it shall make you free." But if you just add 2 more words in there, because the truth is such an ominously enormous, lifelong thing. But what if you just started looking at the truth about yourself?
Yeah.
Know the truth about yourself, and it'll make you free. Yeah. And the other thing is, it's so liberating to say, "I was wrong." It's so liberating. It's beyond anything most people actually ever experience in the truest sense, that they just go, "Yeah, that was me. I made that mistake."
Yeah, very good. Yeah. And the other two words that are 2 of the most difficult words for a human being to say is "I'm sorry."
Mm-hmm.
Come back to humility.
Yeah.
And as you forgive others, you're forgiven.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't even need to get their forgiveness of you. It's
just, there's a destiny in that.
You're forgiven within yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a destiny in saying you're sorry. Yeah. There's a destiny in saying, "Screw you."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like there's a destiny about those things.
Yeah.
There's a trajectory.
That one choice, that one decision in that moment gives you a different destination in life. And with the potential of a life without regrets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Keeping true and truing up to what matters most.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's most important to you in life. That's at the end of life, that destination. That's where I want to look. All right, my friends. Thank you, David. Good show here. And please share the show. We grow through you sharing the show. And please, if you have questions that you would like us to respond to, send them to disruptingthedrift@baronbaptiste.com, disruptingthedrift@baronbaptiste.com. We drop these on YouTube at Disrupt the Drift, just no ing on disrupt. The email is disrupting the drift. The YouTube channel is Disrupt the Drift, like the podcast. We're on all the audio platforms and on YouTube. If you're watching on YouTube, please leave comments too. We like hearing from you. Really love hearing from you. And until next time, keep disrupting the drift. Stay blessed and peace be with you.